It's time to plug into the most radical, mind-blowing, totally unstoppable podcast experience ever. It's louder, it's wilder, it's vaguely scientific. Available while supplies last. I am Derek. I have over 20 sounds and phrases, batteries not included. New Action Jim is here doing science in his extreme science lab or cruising through the galaxy in the science rocket jet, each sold separately. Hi, Jim.
These are the hot new toys for Christmas.
Yay! Jonathan is back, and this time he's transforming into a radical ninja warrior with kung fu grip. Actual change time may vary. Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, all.
Hi.
Taking us back to the 90s.
I forgot that they would do that in the commercials with the transformation thing, and then they would have to say actual change time may vary.
Yeah, can I draw back the curtain here a little bit and just say actual change time may vary was the phrase that made me want to do this entire episode, this entire intro.
Perfect.
Just that one phrase, and I was like, I gotta come up with what else to say.
Yeah.
What a very specific phrase. Actual change time may vary.
There's only one context it could possibly be useful for.
Yeah. Transformers. Robots in Disguise. Or Beast Wars. Or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Vaguely Scientific is a show where we try to answer questions submitted by listeners, posed by friends of the show, and gathered by random happenstance in our daily lives. We can't always promise we'll get the answers right, but we can promise we'll have fun on the way. Before we get to those questions, Jim's gonna tell us the fun science fact of the day.
Huzzah! So technetium is number 43 on the periodic table. It is the lowest element on the table that is produced synthetically, and it's also the lowest numbered element that is radioactive in all isotopes. It is such an oddball element that it wasn't even discovered until 1937, although there was a hole in the periodic table where it should be since the modern periodic table was invented.
So was it discovered? That's the thing that always confused me. The synthetic elements, were they discovered or were they invented?
Well, I think that's sort of one of those things that's like it's a semantic argument, I suppose.
Okay, that's fair.
Because they exist in technetium, for instance, there is a very teeny amount that could be naturally occurring in the breakdown of other elements, but it would be really hard to find. So in any useful quantity, it is all synthesized. So it would have been just sort of created, I guess. But that is kind of a good point now that you brought it up.
Well, that's interesting. I do know that the one right below that is molybdenum.
Ah, that's a good one.
It's a good one. I don't know. Well, I do know why I know that, but yeah.
Actually, so it's not the one below it. It's the one to the left of it, I suppose, right?
Oh, I meant like numerically.
Yeah,
but that's fair.
I was so blown away when I learned in high school chemistry that the periodic table like has a reason behind it, because it looks so stupid.
It does. It really does.
But it's like every row and column is like there for a reason.
Yeah. I thought that was super cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then you never see the like actual full table. The lanthanides and actinides are all popped out.
Well, that's actually interesting. You touched on this in the fun science fact, because the fact that it looks the way it does means you can predict, and they have predicted elements that should have existed and then were discovered later, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And speaking of predicting things,
see,
I had to set myself up for that one, but I got there. I think we should move on to our first question.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. Jonathan gets what I'm doing.
Yeah. It was a great segue.
Thank you. Sometimes I have to jam them in there, but question one this week comes to us from Christy. What are some traits we might see in a creature that could point to it potentially adapting to survive in outer space?
Oh, I love outer space.
Outer space is great. It's where everything is.
Yeah, space is the place.
Space is the place for Star Wars.
Space is the place for the helpful hardware store. I think one of the biggest traits that we might see in a creature is that they are smart enough to build a space station, because then they can live in the space station.
Well, there you go. They are technically surviving in outer space, and we've already seen that. Intelligence. That's actually a good answer, Jim.
It
honestly.
Is. Like it's a cop-out answer, and it's like a half-joke answer, but it is not wrong.
That was the journey I went on just now. It was I got that it was a joke answer, and I was like, oh, cop out it, but then had the realization, no, it's actually a good answer.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Because, I mean, we have the technology to build a space station that's been up there for 26 years. And eventually we're going to probably build a base on the moon. And eventually, down the road, hopefully we'll build a base on Mars. So, like,
the capacity to terraform.
Yeah. So, humans have that the ability to adapt to a lot of environments just by using technology.
So let me pull back a little bit, because I interpret this as not necessarily on another planet, but literally surviving in space.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there's several different difficulties, I suppose, that would pose to a living organism. But if I may go on a bit of a tangent for a moment here, one of the things that I think is actually kind of interesting about this question is that it is asking us to predict future evolution. And and that is something that we kind of can do, but the question is harder to answer than you expect, not just because it's difficult to predict the future, but also because there is a common misconception about evolutionary biology that I guess comes from the fact that there are a lot of poor representations of it. I wonder if I can explain this well, and Jim can help me out. I don't know. But so a lot of what evolutionary biologists have done is look at creatures that, or not even creatures, but species that exist today, and notice either similarities in them or certain traits that must have come from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say that a certain species comes from another species, we're not really looking at a linear progression. We're looking at more of like a branching thing, right?
Yeah.
And we aren't looking at, so this question I worry presents the misconception that a lot of people have, which is that evolutionary biology looks at evolution similar to like Pokemon. Not exactly, but a little bit, in that this feature exists in a species and it will grow and become a bigger modified version of said feature. Whereas what evolutionary biologists do more often is kind of look at species that exist and find traits that must have come from somewhere. And they think, well, if this exists, that means we can reasonably expect that something similar must have existed before it. And that has been kind of been proven true. And they were able to predict things that we might discover in like the fossil record and stuff.
Yeah. And I think it's another thing that we always talk about on the show, where we talk about how evolution isn't like things necessarily getting better. It's just things adapting to fit the environment, and it is pretty much random. So it is survival of the fittest.
So if there were a creature that could survive in, I say, the vacuum of outer space, we would then have to kind of like backtrack and figure out where could this have developed from.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the things that really caught my attention with this question was because I just read Project Hail Mary, and there's two different species living in space, more or less. You have humans in Ryland Grace, and you have Rocky. And something that reading the book, didn't occur to me was that Rocky's whole crew, spoilers for Project Hail Mary, Rocky's whole crew didn't account for space radiation. Because they didn't understand what space radiation was, cosmic rays and all that. So a lot of their crew died to radiation poisoning. So if we were trying to find something in space that would, or even try and develop something on Earth that would survive in space, a big thing would be radiation protection.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't that what happened to the crew of the Red Dwarf, too?
Well, yes, but that was Rimmer's fault.
Oh, fair. As were most things.
Or Lister, depending on if you listen to Lister or listen to Rimmer or the rest of the crew. And also, speaking of Red Dwarf, I was going to bring it up earlier.
Oh,
just
nice.
make sure if you terraform a planet, you don't send a hologram there to terraform it and make a whole culture based off his entire personality.
Yeah, that sounds like a mistake.
It was. Rimmer World was terrifying.
I think it's nice that you mentioned space radiation, though, because that is something that I saw that I thought was really interesting, because I feel like when people talk about the things that are best adapted to outer space or things that can survive in outer space, one of the things that they always point to is the tardigrade, the little water bear, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess there was an experiment that was done on the International Space Station where they exposed a bunch of tardigrades to the vacuum of space. Now, tardigrades are notoriously hard to kill. They are really good at surviving. But the one thing that actually did kill a lot of the tardigrades was, in fact, space radiation, the ultraviolet radiation from the sun. So I think that if we were looking for something that could survive in outer space, there are a lot of things that can survive the vacuum of space, and there are a lot of things that can kind of survive the conditions of outer space. But the one thing that very few animals on Earth are very good at is things like ultraviolet radiation or gamma rays or X-rays or things like that. So I think step one would be trying to track down an animal that can survive that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just have the beginning of a parody song stuck in my head now, which is "First I was afraid, I'm a tardigrade." I'm going to work on it later.
Okay. There's an actual song by Cosmos Sheldrake called Tardigrades, and it's fantastic.
Okay. Cool.
Worth listening to at least once. Another fun thing about tardigrades is I work in wastewater treatment, and the tardigrades will show up in our waste.
Oh, really?
In our mixed liquor suspended solids every so often. And if they do, that's usually a really good sign that the sludge and the other bacteria life in the treatment process are healthy and working.
Oh, cool.
And I just got to see one last year under the microscope. It was so cool.
Oh, that is cool. I love tardigrades. I think they're super cool.
They are so interesting.
I've never seen a tardigrade in person.
I can show you a picture next time I see you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm here
it's
for it.
on my work phone.
Nice. So space radiation is a good one I didn't think of, obviously. Go figure. I didn't think of the space thing.
Right.
So where I started were, I think, the three that seemed the most obvious to me were lack of oxygen, vacuum, so being pressurized, and then temperature.
Right.
Yeah.
The vacuum and the lack of oxygen, I feel like are something that could be managed by something that has a very tough exoskeleton. And then there are several creatures that exist on Earth that go a very, very long time without breathing. But then that presents the difficulty of actually getting into space while holding your breath. And I just don't see much incentive for that. Because I was thinking whales.
Oh, yeah.
Whales will stay underwater and they'll go up to the surface when they need oxygen or when they give birth. But they wouldn't need to go in. It's not like they'd be in space and then they'd come down into Earth's atmosphere to breathe and then need to go back to space. Like, there's nothing in space. They don't need to go there.
Yeah.
I hope you know the only thing I can think of now with whales in space is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes, good. I'm aware.
Good, thank you.
Years ago, it's actually really funny because I saw whales in space referenced twice, I think, when I was, and it had nothing to do with hitchhikers.
Oh,
but
okay.
Because I was looking for ideas about, like, okay, what would you eat in space? And like somebody just offhandedly in like their little article that they wrote, they pointed out like, oh, if you were in space and you were a whale, you couldn't filter feed because there's nothing up there to filter. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, good point.
Yeah, because it being a vacuum means that not only is there no air, but there's also really not anything to eat. I suppose the main thing you might be able to snack on is if you could like land on an asteroid or something and just start breaking it down. Like a fungi or something.
Yeah, maybe. Or like you could get some kind of mineral from space dust or something. But...
Yeah. I was even thinking about photosynthesis, but even for that, you need water and carbon dioxide. And,
oh, yeah.
none of those up in space either. I mean, they are, but in quantities that you can't really do anything with.
So what about like a swim bladder then? What about like being able to bring your own water into an environment where those things don't exist, and then that could ultimately turn into something that maybe allows you to create a self-sustaining ecosystem in your own body? Like that's what it would boil down to, really. Like you need to provide everything yourself.
Right. You'd be a living terrarium.
A living terrarium.
Yeah, so is there a way you could radiation-proof a terrarium and then just send that in space and job done?
I guess wrap it in tinfoil?
Or water. Water always works.
Yeah.
There you go.
I was thinking about the idea of if there could be something living inside of a comet.
Okay.
Because a comet is, a dirty snowball, so it's got ice. But what if the inside of a comet, maybe there's like a little pocket of water and maybe something lives inside of that, which I guess then at that point stops being outer space and starts being the internals of a comet. But
well, what you're describing is the newest model just in at Jeremiah's Discount Lava and Algae Balls.
The space version, except you're inside a comet. The space
version, right? That's a working prototype. I don't know.
Yeah. They come around once every 76 years and you go on your trip.
Sold only in Ohio, which most of the astronauts were from Ohio.
There you go. Yeah.
Thematically works.
The only other thing I can think of for a species adapting to outer space is new types.
I'm here for it.
Okay. I just started. I got through the original Gundam, and now I just started Zeta Gundam, so I'm finally starting into it.
there you go, Jim. Somebody else who knows.
Yeah, somebody else brought it up this time.
Char did nothing wrong so far.
That doesn't count on your bingo sheets, listeners.
Nothing wrong so far? You don't count Garma?
I'm only in Zeta Gundam. Oh, that's right. Yeah, he had it coming.
I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're talking about. I wrote down sea turtles on my notes here. I wrote down sea turtles because they can hold their breath for a really long time.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all I have.
They can also support big worlds on their backs. Discs.
That's true.
Well, I don't know if that's a sea turtle.
Oh, that's true.
It's like an astral turtle.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's the Sea of Stars.
That's a good game too.
Okay, well, thank you, Jonathan, for bringing this up. Okay. So I didn't bring Terry Pratchett up this time, so Jonathan's beaten both of us to it.
That's true.
But
what do you want from? I've been watching Gundam during my lunch break, and I've been listening to Guards on my way to work.
Well, so we talked about having a terrarium, right? And well, Atuin, the star turtle, has a whole planet on its back, right? Yeah. So that works.
So then there's got to be some kind of atmosphere around him then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, okay. Interesting.
You would imagine.
So obviously he's got some kind of gravity to him as well.
Yeah.
Well, if he's big enough to have an entire planet on his back.
Yeah, don't ask me where the center of gravity is, but it is there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Discworld also has its own personal sun, so
that's true.
I don't know that astral bodies work the same way.
Yeah,
that's true.
One of the other things I thought was really interesting was I looked at a creature from a book called Man After Man by, I think his name was Dougal Dixon. And this is a book that I don't know if either of you are familiar with it, actually.
I just looked up the cover art of it, and I'm concerned.
So it is a work of speculative fiction, and it was written in the 80s, I believe. And so the whole premise, the whole premise of the book is that Earth was dying, and so very, very rich people decided to build spaceships and leave. But before they went, they sort of genetically engineered a bunch of like human subspecies to fill in the remaining ecological niches, and also to do a lot of the work for them to build the spaceships. And one of the biologically engineered human species that they used to build the spaceships was something called a vacuumorph. And it was basically a human that was designed to live in the vacuum of space. And so one of the interesting things about it, because you brought up turtles, is that it has basically a full body hard shell. And so the whole thing kind of looks like a big old walnut. And the arms kind of look like, and the limbs, I guess you'd say, all four of them kind of look like they're encased in some kind of rubber. But I think that reading through the text, it's implied to be a harder material. So it is basically designed to be hardened against the vacuum of space. The lenses on the eyes are tinted and they are very thick. So they're designed to, ward off against solar radiation and things like that. And my understanding is that they don't have a tremendously long life, although I think that the person named in the text, because each one of the human sort of subspecies creatures, there's like a little bio about one of the individuals. And I think that it says that this one was 25 years old at the time during this little vignette. So it's really interesting because it hits on a lot of the points that we were talking about, which is that it has a large internal system of lungs that can store air for a long period of time. It can move through the vacuum of space by using some of that compressed air to get around. And in order to eat and drink and things like that, it has to kind of come back inside where there is, actual environment, although they are designed to live in 0G, so they wouldn't go into like a space station or something because that would kill them. They have to be on the float all the time.
Well, I kind of alluded to this a little bit quickly with my joke about whales having to surface in the atmosphere and then return to space, but like that was a genuine follow-up to the question: is does a creature surviving in space mean primarily in space?
Yeah.
Or just like, are they able to go into space for a limited duration or something?
And that's why I think it would be interesting to consider a creature that could live on something like an asteroid where it's light enough or where there's not enough gravity that it is stuck there for good, that it could maybe hop off and travel from place to place.
Yeah, see, that makes sense to me. That makes me think kangaroos.
Space kangaroos.
Space kangaroos.
So this Man After Man book, I read it a long time ago, but it has become marginally less obscure because there is a thing that I usually see around the holidays where it is sort of like this large Yeti-looking creature with the smaller monkey on its back, and it says Seasons Greasons.
Oh, yeah, I just saw that picture.
Yeah, that's from this book.
Okay.
That picture is from this book.
I mean, I Googled the book and it came up, so I know what you're talking about.
I didn't know that.
Because of that, it is incrementally less obscure than it used to be.
Okay. Well, incrementally is still progress.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting because in science fiction, you can often find a lot of these kinds of things where there are answers to these questions, but in ways that you might not expect.
Yeah, and I think that kind of is true just about our answer to this question too, is that it's harder to answer than you think for a reason you don't necessarily think of, I guess. Well, before we move on to our second question, I would like to propose an experiment you can do at home.
Hooray!
I've done this here and there sort of informally on this show. I have another experiment that I'd like to try out with you guys. So Jonathan and Jim can do this, and our listeners can even try it along with them. Though we won't be able to hear your reactions in real time, but feel free to write to us if you have any thoughts about it. This is going to be a little difficult to demonstrate in an audio format because I'm going to have to describe hand positions, but I think it should be simple enough that we can do it. So both of you, if you would, I want you to, with one hand, cross your index and middle finger. So just those two fingers, whichever orientation is most comfortable for you.
Okay.
And now on your desk or table or wherever you're sitting, find an object like a pencil or a pen. I am using the wires to my headphones. So something like that could also work. And this will probably work better if you do this without looking at your hand.
Oh.
But it should also still work if you do look at your hand. So what I want you to do is take that object, whatever it may be, and place it right on the intersection point of those two fingers on what is now the inside of those fingers. And this might be subtle, but it very possibly will feel weirdly like there might be two objects there instead of just one. It might not feel exactly like that, but it should at least be an odd sensation.
Mm-hmm.
So here's why this happens. This is actually a phenomenon called, I have to. This is called Aristotle's illusion. And you've all heard of an optical illusion before. That would be your brain misinterpreting visual inputs as something that is not actually what is physically there.
Mm-hmm.
This is a tactile illusion. Because this object is touching the outside of both of your fingers, the brain mistakenly interprets the sensation of each finger as two distinct objects, since those sides of your fingers are typically facing away from each other. So it's not used to receiving tactile input from these opposite outer edges at the same time. When the fingers are crossed, the brain fails to account for this change, leading to a perceptual disjunction. So even though you know intellectually that your fingers are crossed, your brain performs what is called a cognitive override to try to make sense out of what is just physically a nonsensical situation.
Huh. Interesting.
I know this has been around obviously for a long time, since the time of Aristotle, but I always hear about optical illusions, and this is the first time I was really made aware of a tactile illusion. I thought that was a cool idea.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting idea of just like, exactly like you said, we're so used to the idea of being able to trick our eyes that tricking our sense of touch is a lot different than usual.
And I think it's interesting that looking at your hand when you do it can help break the illusion, because with the added input of your eyes,
mm-hmm.
your brain is able to put more information together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was a fun experiment.
Thank you.
I saw that recently, the examples of that, and I thought it was really interesting that there's a tactical illusion. It didn't work for me the first time I tried it, but this time, going through while you were explaining it and trying it in different positions, it finally clicked. I was like, oh, it is really weird that you can feel it in two different spots, because your brain knows that should be two different objects with the way your hand is positioned.
Yeah, and it's hard to describe because it doesn't feel literally like there are two different objects, but it doesn't feel quite right.
Right.
Which is interesting. I don't know if I've said this on the podcast before or not, but I have a numbness in the ring finger on my right hand from cutting it when I was younger. So the tip of my finger, I don't have any feeling in.
Oh, okay.
Occasionally, I will, if I feel pressure on the middle finger of that hand, I will feel that sensation in both fingers.
Oh, interesting.
So it's like my brain is compensating for the lack of a connected nerve in the one finger.
Yeah, you've got a phantom finger going on.
Yeah. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's super uncomfortable, but usually I'm used to it.
Yeah.
Oh, I might have been trying it on the finger that I messed up the nerves in, so that might have been part of it.
Oh, yeah, that was. If your nerves are already messed up, then they're going to do some weird things. Speaking of weird things that it's hard to wrap our brains around, though. That's 2 for 2. I'm counting it. We do have a second question this week, and let's dive right in. Question 2 this week is, are there any real examples of a sci-fi type hive mind in nature? And that just sounded like a poem reading it out loud right now.
Yeah.
Sci-fi type hive mind.
It's got some good synergy to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent flow.
Excellent flow there. Insects like ants, they move like a fluid in large groups.
Right.
So that has a flow to it as well.
Yeah. And that reminds me to answer the actual question. No. But we could still talk about other things. It doesn't have to mean the end of the episode.
Well, the answer, so the qualifier sci-fi type.
Yeah.
It does
That's
a
really
lot
what
of the
kneecaps
lifting
it.
on this, right? Yeah. Because then you have the question, what does hive mind mean? And I interpret that being like something like the go-to example is the Borg in Star Trek, or some of the idea that it is a lot of individual organisms that share a consciousness.
Yeah.
I want to say with an asterisk in there.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing that really kind of negates the whole argument. Not argument, but it's sort of, there's nothing in nature where a consciousness is shared among individuals. And so for a sci-fi type hive mind, we're not going to see that. But in science fiction, yeah, you're right. It is a thing where multiple sort of individual organisms all are part of a network of some sort. It's not just them calling the shots. It's not them making decisions. That is part of a larger brain, or, I guess there's the Borg Queen or things like that is controlling the hive.
Yeah. So I looked at a couple different things. Jim is correct. The answer is no, which means inherently I had to go in weird directions to come up with how I answered this question. So the first thing I kind of looked at is if we just keep it in a human perspective, I kind of looked at ways that it would be weird if humanity had a hive mind. And that took me into thinking, well, that would be a shared consciousness, that would be shared experience, and that led me to the Jungian idea of the collective unconscious.
Oh, okay.
Which is not what I'm about to describe, just so everyone knows. So briefly, I will describe the Jungian collective unconscious.
Oh, boy. No, I'm just kidding.
So briefly, Jung believed there is a built-in psychological inheritance, or so patterns and symbols that everyone is born with, and this is universal across all of our species, and these are called archetypes. And this is largely connected to things like storytelling, but often connected to dreams. So the idea of the hero's journey, or motherly figures, or the shadow self, or things like that. They show up in mythology a lot. They show up in dreams. And the idea that we have all had similar dreams. For example, a really common stress dream is if you went to school or college or something, it is really common for adults later in life to have dreams that they are still in school and they didn't do their homework, or they realized they didn't go to class all semester.
Yeah.
And have no idea when the final is, or something like that.
I've had that dream recently.
Yeah, and that's a really common stress dream because it's a really relatable experience that ties to our lack of the ability to control things. I have multiple times had dreams where I am trying to drive a car, but I'm in the back seat of the car, and I can't figure out how I must have done this before. And I've learned that a lot of people have had similar dreams when they feel like a lot of things in their lives are beyond their control.
Mm-hmm.
Jung posited that this was inherited. This was a thing that exists somewhere in an ethereal other place, and we all draw from it, which is philosophical and not provable in any meaningful way.
Yeah.
But it was compared a lot to creatures having instincts. It was compared a lot to the idea of how does a bird know to migrate, or how does an animal know to hunt to eat. And I was thinking, what if humanity did actually inherit memories, but beyond memories, they also inherited the idea that, I don't know, if Jim was wronged by a specific person, what if your descendants just grew up knowing that this person was our enemy?
Oh, okay.
Like, and that's not really a hive mind, but it is like a species agreement in a weird way. I don't know.
It is. Oh, what would that be called? Like I've heard it in sci-fi. I feel like it's something like genetic memory or something, where it's like the idea of memories being able to be passed down genetically.
There's some visual novels that I've played that are called the Nonary games. The first one
of those.
The first one being 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors, or 999.
Oh, okay.
And in it, they talk about the morphogenic field, which is this whole, without whole spoilers things, it's kind of like an unconscious hive minds across the human species. One example they give of it is this like kind of optical illusion picture of a dog, and you were trying to figure it out, and the characters in the scene are like talking about it. And it's like, what does this look like? And the main character says, well, it's a Funyarimpa. And it's like, well, what the heck is that? And it's like they go on this whole big bit about it. But eventually the girl explains, like, it's a picture of a dog, but you don't know that in later playthroughs of the game because it's got this whole multiple route. It's like each playthrough affects different playthroughs in different ways. It's very well done. I really highly recommend the games. But the way they use the different routes explaining and affecting each other is something called the morphogenic field, and it's you learn something one route that affects things in other routes. So once you know that that's the picture of the dog and you can see the dog, then later on you understand that it's a dog. But it's very well done. But I guess the whole point that I'm trying to get at is that morphogenetic field is another sci-fi implementation of a hive mind. The later games go into more details about it too. Again, really great series. Would highly recommend it. I'm not huge into visual novels, but they were very interesting sci-fi visual novels.
Okay.
Yeah. That's really interesting because I have heard the term morphogenetic field before, and I had to look it up again because I was like, I wonder if that's like related. And the way that I've heard it before was it was a discussion on, and this is before we really understood things about embryonic development and how growth is controlled by various hormones and whatnot. But the idea was that there was sort of a field that a creature sort of existed in that was like their final shape was kind of constrained by this field. And in some of the experiments that were done, basically they were like, well, if you transplant a limb from this, developing embryo from one place to another, it still turns into a limb because it's growing into that morphogenic field. And it's like, no, that's not what's happening. It's because it's all controlled by hormones. But it was just a term that I had heard, and I thought that was really interesting that they used it in that context.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. I didn't realize that the morphogenetic field was an actual thing. The only place I've ever seen it was that visual novel series.
Yeah. Technically it's not like a thing any longer. This was like in the 30s or something like that.
It was a thing so much as in that it was a real word used by a real by a pseudoscientist.
Yeah. Pretty soon I'm going to have to say 1930s. We're almost into the 2030s now.
We're almost into the 30s, yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things, I didn't want to disagree with you, Jim, when you said that hard no to the answer to this question, because I think you are correct. But I did want to say that hypothetically, if we discovered a species that was a hive mind in that sense, it would be we would have a devil of a time proving it.
That's true. Yeah.
Because we can't really understand what that experience would be like as an individual creature. And much the same way, we can't understand what it's like to be a dog. Like, I cannot understand what it's like to be Jonathan.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, we can't see the consciousness of each other, but we just kind of take it on faith that we all have it. And so I was trying to break down, like, what are ways. So I was like, would you still be an individual, and therefore could you dissent? And then that made me think of Agent Smith from The Matrix.
Oh, yeah.
In theory, The Matrix is run by the machines, which would be a computer brain. So you'd think all the parts of it would be working in tandem, and yet Agent Smith evolves in some way and becomes discontent with being part of the Matrix.
Yeah.
And then becomes his own individual consciousness.
I think that example is very interesting because I never got the strict impression that the Matrix was a hive mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you see so many different programs that have gone rogue, like Agent Smith and the Oracle and the Merovingian and like all these different folks that are just like, I'm bored of the machine life. I'm going to go do other things. And
yeah.
But also, like, they can be connected to a communication network of some sort. So you're not altogether wrong at all. But
right. Well, that kind of made me think. This is yet another tangent that I'll try to stay focused for a moment. But when we think of hive mind, we think of bees and ants because the word hive. So that idea. So there is a weird thing that is happening with a colony of ants, per se, or a hive of bees, that they are individual organisms, but they don't have the survival instinct to think the individual matters. But at the same time, they aren't just one brain controlling a bunch of remote appendages.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, when we say that all of the bees serve the queen bee, we are humanizing and romanticizing a little bit, because the queen bee is not actually the boss of all the bees.
Right.
That's not really how that works. But that aside, let's assume bees did work that way. Let's assume all bees are just like extensions of this one consciousness. There are multiple beehives. So would there be multiple hive minds in a species? And then would they fight each other? Would the individual organisms that are part of that hive mind be able to like change sides? These are questions that I've thought about all day.
Well, and it's interesting because if you look at sort of how a beehive works or an ant colony works, the individuals can make decisions based on the information they have, and they're not being, mind controlled by the queen, but they are sort of operating as this, they are so thoroughly altruistic to the colony itself that their own lives are pretty much irrelevant. And so it's interesting because while they are individuals and they can communicate and they, make the decisions based on their input from the environment around them, they are still single-mindedly focused on protecting the colony as opposed, and I guess more specifically in that case, the queen as well, as opposed to, I don't think there are really all that many insects that go rogue and that sort of thing.
Right.
I don't think they have the capacity for that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's interesting to think about how that functions on such a scale,
Yeah.
So in Brandon Sanderson's Cosbeer, he's actually kind of playing with that idea that Derek brought up about hive minds in a colony, if you will. So they have something called the Sleepless, and they're like a hive mind of little crabs, I guess you could say. And they all work together as a single hive mind entity, but then there's different colonies in that species of the Sleepless. They all have different agendas, want to help different things and work for different organizations and whatnot. But each horde goes by an identity, but each part of that horde has different little appendages that they've bred and shaped over the centuries in order to do specialized jobs.
Yeah. Interesting.
The other two hive mind adjacent things I wanted to bring up was Pando. Pando being the possibly world's largest single organism. It is a tree in Sevier County, Utah. And it's a male clonal organism that it's just this one individual tree that has estimated to be around 47,000 stems. But they're all genetically identical parts of a single connected tree.
Mm-hmm.
And its root system seems to be around 106 acres. So it's
interesting.
Huge, but it's so large. It's one organism, but it's kind of that same argument of it's over such a large span, 106 acres, that it almost feels like it's straying into that hive mind territory. Because how does one organism control that many acres of stems?
Yeah. I think that would be an interesting thing to look at from the perspective of an animal. Because there are no animals that do anything like that, where they're still all like a single body.
Right.
Yeah. And I think ultimately individuality and what we would consider traditional intelligence kind of negate the capacity of a hive mind. So like, because we have the sense of self, we have the theory of mind. We see ourselves as an individual. So even though we have instincts, right? We know that we need to eat. We know that we need to protect ourselves from harm. But just because Jim, Jonathan, and I all agree that we as organisms need to eat doesn't mean it matters as much to me whether Jim gets to eat for my survival. And that's sort of like the antithesis of what a hive mind would be, because if we would all have to share some consciousness, and then we would all just have to agree one of us is the more important one that needs to get the food. But then you have that kind of like weird idea, like again, if bees really did work in such a way where the queen bee is ordering all these drones to just serve her and it's all just her whim, then like, why does that one get to be the one that eats? Like, what made that arbitrary decision?
Yeah.
This is the body that I prioritize.
Yeah.
You know, now that you framed it in that way, it made me think about the fact that we are just several billion individual cells all functioning as one colony.
That was the other argument that I was going to make. Is that humans are hive minds because we're all just pieces under the control of a single consciousness.
Yeah.
But are we are a single mind. So that's exactly where I want to go. So thank you for saying that, because another way to frame this that I thought of was a character from, I think largely from the 90s was when he was most used, but a character from Spider-Man called the Swarm.
The Nazi bee guy.
The Nazi bee guy. The Swarm is a Nazi. So that's not relevant to what I'm going to talk about, but he was a Nazi. The Swarm is a colony of bees that make up an individual person's consciousness. And that's the biggest difference between how actual bees work and what a hive mind would have to be. That's like the most significant chunk of what we're trying to answer here is, what is consciousness? Where is consciousness? If we even reduce it to the three of us in a hive mind, it wouldn't be able to be just one of our physical brains that are the mind. It has to be consciousness. So the way the Swarm works is all of these bees fly together and make the form of a person who can then speak. But like each individual bee's brain isn't the consciousness of this guy. The consciousness is like some disembodied thing that is controlling all of the bees.
Yeah.
It's weird to think about and hard to articulate.
Yeah. And even if you think about going back to the argument of, each one of us is just a whole bunch of cells working together to be alive, and obviously you would say, okay, well, consciousness is in the brain, but it's like, but all your brain is all cells, and that's just an electrical haunted meat clod, as I like to say.
And ultimately, the brain of Theseus happens, where like all of those cells have been recycled. It is not the same matter anymore, right?
Mm-hmm. Ooh, existential. Wasn't expecting to go there.
I always have room for existentialism in this. I can bring it down a little bit because ultimately I don't have anywhere to go from bringing up the existential philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
I love that we touched on it. But there is one last note that I have made in terms of how could we interpret a hive mind. And this is a stretch just for fun, really. I've been thinking a lot about the idea of the group noun chat in like streaming online.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I think that makes a hive mind, but because I think our perception of chat, or if you watch somebody who is streaming something, they will talk to chat knowing rationally that it is a bunch of different people all contributing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're trying to get a consensus, it is very quick that you will see the polling of people pitching opinions will the most dominant opinion will become clear fairly rapidly in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me of, there's an improv game where a group of people will all count to 3 very quickly and then all say a word. And then without putting too much thought into it and zero discussion into it, they will count to 3 again and they will all have to say another word. And the game continues until everybody is saying the same word.
Oh, interesting.
And you kind of just have to give and take and start interpreting which person is going to stick with their theme. Like, which person's word are we all going to adapt to? And that is, I don't know, like a subconscious sort of mind melding experiment, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think that's a fascinating idea.
Yeah. The only other thing that I was thinking about is not really something that is conscious, at least as far as we know. But it was the idea of the internet, because I was thinking about how you have individual computers, you have individual servers, and they can be spread out across the entire planet. But none of those individual things is going to be able to necessarily work on its own if it is, trying to serve up a website or serve up a bunch of image files or something like that. Like, every part of the internet has to work in sort of conjunction. Otherwise, it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. And I thought that was kind of interesting because, again, like, the internet, as far as we know, again, is not like thinking about things, but in order for you to be able to go to a website, the parts do have to function independently, but in unison, basically.
Well, yeah, and that's sort of how complex a brain must be, just an individual brain, because if you look at a computer that is largely a bunch of binary circuits, a series of switches that are either on and off, but they all work together to form one task, I guess. That is how your brain is put together. So in order to then have a single brain that controls an entire species of an organism, like, how monumentally complex that would have to be.
Yeah.
My favorite way to describe computers is still a rock that we tricked into thinking.
Yeah. It's all silicon and electricity.
Electrical.
And
yeah.
I think that it's amazing with the idea of just having these inorganic chunks all stitched together that can now do so many things.
Yeah.
Someday, I believe that it's possible we could get there to the point where computers are able to think and there's like a hive-mindedness to them. And that will be, I think, maybe the answer to this question, is that someday down the road, when we actually achieve a real artificial intelligence, then that's going to be what it is.
I think beyond the simple question, does this thing exist? I think what I was interested most in this question is, assuming it did exist, how are all the ways it works? Like, what are the experience like? And that's what's really fascinating to explore. And obviously Jonathan has brought up some examples of like, one interesting place to go with that is, what if it stops working? You know, it already has, and it stops. Or what if there are two of them, or things like that?
Yeah.
That I just think are thrilling.
And that makes me think about the Borg in Star Trek, because there were a lot of instances where people were able to be removed from the collective. And there was, I believe, a Borg civil war at one point, because somebody who had been removed from the collective had been given a virus that basically, when they were given back to the Borg to reattach them to the collective, that virus then became active, and it was able to cause a lot of other individuals to then spring forth and detach from the hive mind, basically.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So there are a lot of cool things you can do with the idea in sci-fi, but in reality, I mean, there are also a lot of ways it could go wrong, I suppose.
The last one I was going to bring up was mushrooms.
Oh,
fungi.
Yeah.
The fire.
Fun.
Yes.
Sorry.
I am very fascinated by the idea of one very big organism, like the trees you talked about. I know there's an equally large fungus somewhere out in the West.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is cool. I don't understand how an animal could function like that, but I love that there are non-animal creatures that can do it.
Like cordyceps.
That's where I was going. Fungus has always been interesting to me on like a morbid sort of level, just how they decompose and keep the ecosystem going to a degree, to a big degree. But also to take that to like an even more of a horror situation was Last of Us. Its whole goal was the cordyceps were able to infect humans. And so that's all the zombies in that game are cordyceps infected humans. And it's so fascinating to see that, like, that would be, you could classify the zombies in that as a hive mind, because it's all the one cordyceps strain that's infecting and controlling everyone.
That's interesting, because horde has become the big thing that we associate zombies with. So the threat posed by zombies is that when they all become a mass of, you know, a horde, it overruns things, and that is kind of a hive mentality. They move as a fluid in that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, zombies are a hive mind.
I am very curious how actual cordyceps fungi work, where it makes the ant or whatever climb to the top of the leaf and then die. And I'm fascinated by the mechanics of that, because I don't understand it.
Well, listeners, let us know this week, how would a hive mind survive in space? It would be the Borg.
Or the Sleepless from the Cosmere. Either one.
Yeah. Well, if you have thoughts on that or anything else that maybe would have been a better closer,
they can't all be gems.
They can't all be gems. It sounded good until it came out of my mouth, and then
but they could all be gems if it's a hive mind.
Whoa! All right, Jonathan, you win this round. Jonathan's stepping on all our toes this episode. How you doing?
I gotta prove my worth to be on this every now and then.
All right. Well, if you have thoughts on anything we talked about, you can email us at feedback@vaguelyscientific.com, or you can comment on our blog, or you can comment on our Facebook page, or you can follow us on Blue Sky @vaguelyscientific. Hey, Jim, where do we get all these wacky questions?
We get them from you, the listener. And if you have a question that needs to be answered in a vaguely scientific manner, please email us at questions@vaguelyscientific.com. If you want to get our episodes the minute that they're released, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and all the other great places that cool podcasts like to hang out. And subscribing and leaving feedback really helps us out, and so does telling your friends.
Your friends do not exist in the hive mind, so you do need to tell them.
Yeah, yes. Exactly.
Not yet, at least.
Not yet. We will assimilate them later.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you would like to support Vaguely Scientific, there are a couple different ways you can do that now. First off, we always have our store over at vaguelyscientific.threadless.com. Lots of really fun merch that you can buy over there. And now you can buy us a coffee through Buy Us a Coffee. That's why it's called that. And the link for that is right on vaguelyscientific.com. You can just click the button and send some money straight over to us, and it helps keep our lights on.
Yeah. So do that if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you to Jonathan for being our guest this week.
Yeah, it's always happy to be here.
Good.
Yay. For Vaguely Scientific, I am Derek.
I'm Jim.
And I'm Jonathan.
Vaguely Scientific is not liable for damages or injury.
Toodaloo.
Peace.
Man, I'm glad we put that disclaimer at the end there because I really didn't want to be liable.
I didn't want to be liable. Now we're not liable. So, yeah.
Are we liable when they join the hive?
We didn't tell them to join the hive.
No, that's true.